Welcome to Showoff Showdown! In this series, the fighters are called Showoffs, and this is the series for the Showoff Showdown!
Now let's meet the Showoffs for tonight's showdown, shall we? Tonight's fighters are solid as a rock, as big as a house, and have unearthly strength. See what I did there? That's right, Crusher versus Gorem! Who's gonna get smashed into rubble, and who's gonna come out on mountaintop? Yeah, that one was terrible, sorry.
Now without further ado, it's time for the Showoff 2 Showdown!
Get ready for the next battle.
It's Crush Hour. Cool place. Let's check it out. Whoa! Wow, those are big numbers. Crushing time! Crushing it! Hammer it home! Pile driver! More crushing, less waiting. Hey, I'm starting to erode.
This battle is beginning to bore me. You're going down. This battle is over.
Now that was a crushing defeat!
Now let's discuss how and why Gorem wins this hard, heavy-hitting showdown. Normally, I'd start off with who's more skilled and experienced, but I think I'll skip that this time and discuss what truly matters. But before I do, I just wanted to say that I won't be talking about G-Power or anything like that, because that stuff isn't really relevant when it comes to versus debating. In fact, I think the main reason why I've been hesitant to do a Bakugan matchup for years is because the rules of Bakugan battles are completely different from how traditional versus series such as this usually work, as they're mainly based around G-Power, numbers, and hacks, and other complicated things that don't really mean anything in a versus debate. This made it very difficult to find usable feats or calculations for Gorem in this battle. Thankfully, however, I was lucky enough to come across a very good researcher named Ghost Host, who had binge-watched the entire original Bakugan Battle Brawlers series to find research for this episode. Not only is that some incredible dedication, but the feats and research he managed to dig up for Gorem are way more impressive than I had originally thought. As you can see here from Ghost Host's research, the speed factor is too great to fathom, and even if we say Gorem's speed isn't quite as great as what these calcs say, even a very small fraction of that is far greater than anything Crusher would be able to keep up with. Even if we decide to lowball Gorem and say he can only move as fast as light beams, he'd still have the speed edge, as the Giants aren't the fastest Skylanders, and Crusher's speed would probably be no greater than light speed at best. Then again, speed isn't Crusher's strongest attribute. So let's get into the stuff that these characters are really known for. Now, the first thing you might have noticed is that Gorem holds a rather significant size advantage over Crusher, as Gorem is estimated to be roughly 100 feet tall, while Crusher is only about 1/6 of Gorem's height. Now, of course, this isn't the first time Crusher has faced opponents significantly larger than him, but there's a lot more to this battle than just size alone. As for strength and durability, Crusher's levels are much more clear, as he's clearly strong enough to lift and pull entire islands towards him, as well as destroyed an entire island with his raw strength alone. He's also strong enough to temporarily pin down the planet-busting Malefor for a short amount of time, with the help of a few other giants, so it was a team effort, of course. Plus, giants like Crusher can also take head-on attacks from Malefor, and that's about the best extent I can give for Crusher. As for Gorem, not only can he casually break down massive walls, level skyscrapers, and shatter the ground beneath him, but most low-tier Bakugans such as Skyrus are capable of creating city-level storms, and that was before they evolved and got even more powerful. Also, Gorem should definitely scale to Drago from the original Battle Brawler saga, as when he and Drago battled, he was able to do significant damage and overpower Drago for a fair amount of time during their battle. Drago is capable of surviving Laga and taking attacks from some of the strongest Bakugan, and during the first series finale fight against Naga, Drago was able to take on and eventually defeat Naga, with a bit of help of course. In terms of how powerful Naga is, Naga had become infused with the silent core of Vestroia, which is confirmed to be a whole universe rather than just a planet, and the core is what binds the universe of Vestroia together, until Naga stole half of the core for himself, which caused Vestroia to split apart into multiple elemental sections. Now, even if we say Naga only has half of the core and only a fraction of the universe's power, or that Gorem isn't quite as powerful as Naga, but considering how closely comparable to Drago he is, even a very small fraction of that kind of power is far greater than anything Crusher is capable of dishing out or matching. I'd also mention that Gorem can definitely scale to Tigrera, who was able to briefly damage and knock down Mectavius Destroyer, who had casually destroyed Bakugan City and wiped out every single Bakugan on New Vestroia to extinction, but I think I've already explained enough on how and why Gorem's power outclasses Crusher's by a long shot. Now, if we decide to heavily lowball Gorem and say his strength and power is almost the same as Crusher's, which I've already explained otherwise earlier, Gorem has several unique abilities that can counter pretty much everything Crusher has to throw at him, such as his Giga Impact ability, which can increase his strength further and nullify his opponent's powers. Not to mention, if an opponent punches Gorem's shield, they become weaker and more tired over time, and considering that Skylanders like Crusher can get too tired to fight after taking too much damage, it's very likely this would affect him as well. Another useful Subterra ability Gorem has is the Copycat ability, which basically allows Gorem to replicate or copy the same ability his opponent has used, which means he could basically do everything Crusher can do and dish it back twice as hard. Though we could argue that this ability wouldn't work on Crusher because he isn't a Bakugan. Now, even though these two come from completely different universes with different rules and whatnot, they're both technically the exact same element, Subterra or Earth, so neither have an elemental advantage over the other, and they also share most of the exact same basic attacks or abilities, so it's not far-fetched to imagine Gorem could copy all of Crusher's abilities, which mostly consist of hammer swinging and throwing, which Gorem can do, shooting beams from his eyes that turn enemies to stone, and splitting his body apart and rock sliding around. Speaking of which, you might be thinking that if Gorem smashes Crusher to pieces, he could easily just reform his body back together every time. While that is true, but if Gorem decides to obliterate Crusher into dust to the point of disintegration, or there's nothing left of Crusher to reform himself from, I think it's safe to say that Crusher won't be recovering from that. I think I've said enough. So, in the end, looks like Gorem beat the Crush Hour. The winner of this battle is Gorem. Before I wrap this up, I'd like to give a huge special thanks to the main researcher of this battle, Ghost Host. This episode couldn't have been done without him, so I owe him great thanks to all the help he has provided. I'd also like to give a special thanks and shout out to Maximum Rebo for animating the second half of this battle. He's made plenty of other animations, so please go check out his channel and subscribe. Oh, and one more thing. For those of you who don't already know, I now officially have a Patreon. If you want to show your support and join the RCMP, as in Royal Canadian Mounted Patrons, then that would be so awesome, and I would really appreciate it. Members of the RCMP will have beneficial access to future episodes of Showoff Showdown and other videos before they're officially released, as well as exclusive access to special posts and videos that can only be viewed on Patreon.
Join the RCMP, and the first thing you'll learn is a nice shiny badge.
Next time on Showoff Showdown!
For the one, the only, Freddy Fazbear.
Will appreciate. Have a happy humble day.
Got any ideas for Showoff Showdown? Then let me know in the comments below, and hopefully I just might do them. Now stay tuned for the next episode of Showoff Showdown!